After my parents went through a divorce, my sister opted to reside with our affluent father, leaving me to settle into my mother's rented apartment. Several years passed, and our father irresponsibly dissipated his wealth through excessive drinking and gambling. In contrast, my mother ventured into the world of live streaming, successfully establishing herself as a businesswoman. However, my sister eventually faced hardships and sought refuge by coming to me in tears. During a moment when I was distracted, she attempted to poison me. "We share the same parents, so why do you get to enjoy such a comfortable life while I'm struggling?" she lamented. When I regained consciousness, I found myself back on the day my parents divorced. This time, she hurried to embrace our mother, declaring, "I want to live with Mom no matter the challenges." Unbeknownst to her, our mother was far more formidable than our father. My sister had always been adept at sweet-talking and charming others, often earning more favor than I did. When our parents decided to separate, they first approached her about her living arrangements. Our father, a beneficiary of a trust fund, was undeniably wealthy, whereas our mother, a homemaker, had little to her name post-divorce. Without a second thought, my sister clung to our father. "I love you the most, Dad. I can't live without you. I want to grow up by your side," she declared. Our father was elated, lifting her high and proclaiming, "Sweet girl, you can always be Daddy's little princess." She beamed with happiness and cast a smug glance my way, revealing her competitive nature, always striving to outdo me, even at her own expense. Our father and sister shared a laugh, while our mother stood nearby, visibly heartbroken. I remained silent for a moment before taking my mother's hand. "Mom, I'm willing to stay with you." She gazed deeply into my eyes, but remained silent. Years later, by sheer chance, my mother's streaming business flourished. We upgraded from her modest apartment to a community residence, and eventually to a villa. Her old electric bike was replaced first by a Mercedes, then a Porsche. One day, as my mother was driving us, we encountered a traffic accident. A scooter driver, going the wrong way, collided with a luxury car. The owner of the luxury vehicle was furious, while the scooter driver was profusely apologizing. His daughter was sobbing beside him, but out of shame, he pushed her away. The distressed girl turned around, and our eyes met through the car window. It was my sister, Rachel. When I noticed the apologetic scooter driver, I realized it was our father. Rachel saw us too and began frantically chasing after our car. However, my mother accelerated and left the scene as if nothing had happened. Hesitantly, I spoke up, "Mom, that was my sister." She responded coldly, "I saw her." "Do you want to help her?" I dared to ask, but she merely smirked. As a child, she had been lovely, but now she resembled our father in her ugliness. "A heartless ingrate. That's karma." I remained silent. Shortly after, Rachel reached out to me, expressing a desire to meet. In a cafe, she cried, "Sister, you have no idea about Dad." She revealed that Dad was utterly foolish, greedy, and incompetent. A few years prior, he had taken misguided advice from a friend and invested in a scam, losing millions. Our grandfather was furious and cut him off. Instead of learning from his mistakes, Dad descended into drinking and gambling, racking up over $600,000 in debts. Eventually, Grandpa severed financial ties, forcing Dad to start delivering food for income, a stark contrast to his previously pampered lifestyle. Unfamiliar with traffic rules, Dad soon caused the accident I witnessed that day. At the cafe, Rachel sobbed in my arms. "Sister, I saw Mom driving a Porsche, wearing Chanel, and you have a Dior bag. You must be doing well. Can you talk to Mom? I'm also her daughter. I don't want to live with Dad anymore. I want to be with her. She must miss me." 4 years after our separation, Rachel kept reaching out, hoping I'd return. Her hopeful eyes sent shivers down my spine at the thought of Mom. Ultimately, I told her, "You shouldn't live with Mom, but I can give you some money." Rachel looked up sharply, but quickly masked it with a grateful smile. "Thank you, sister. I knew you'd always be the best." The next day, I transferred $50,000 to Rachel. She invited me to dine at her place. In her rented apartment, Rachel served me a cup of tea. "Sister, I remember you loved jasmine tea as a kid. I picked this especially for you. Do you like it?" I drank it without suspicion, but soon felt dizzy. The last thing I saw was Rachel slashing my face with a knife. "Olivia, we're both our parents' children. Why do you get to live a good life while I have to suffer? You're rich, but you only gave me a little and won't let me live with Mom. You're a selfish jerk. When the darkness lifted, I found myself back on the day of my parents' divorce. Facing Dad's question, Rachel quickly clung to Mom. I can't live without Mom. I'll stay with her no matter how hard it gets. Mom tearfully embraced Rachel, who gave me a cunning smile. From a hidden vantage point, Rachel silently mouthed, "Sister, this time, it's my turn to reach the top." She was reborn, unaware that Mom was more formidable than Dad. Rachel happily moved into her new apartment, while I remained in the villa. Dad, as usual, was irresponsible, just divorced and already planning a night out at a nightclub. On the phone, he chatted with an alluring voice, seemingly entertained. As he grabbed his jacket to leave, I stopped him. "Dad? Who's having dinner with me?" I asked. He replied matter-of-factly, "Isn't the nanny coming? Let her dine with you." I bit my lip and said, "I haven't seen Grandpa in a long time. I kind of miss him. Can you take me to his place?" Dad hesitated for a moment. Seeing this, I added, "Cousin Charlie visited Grandpa the other day, and he mentioned buying Auntie another car. Did you know that, Dad?" Hearing this, he loaded me into the car. Grandpa lived in a secluded lakeside villa. In his eyes, Mom was a scheming woman who would stop at nothing to climb the social ladder, leading him to always look down on her and dislike Rachel and me. After our parents' divorce, Rachel tried to please Grandpa, but at home, she remained the spoiled little princess. Her only talent was pretending to be obedient and innocent. At Grandpa's house, none of her tricks worked. No matter how much she cried or fussed, Grandpa remained indifferent. In contrast, Auntie's son Charlie was Grandpa's beloved. Whatever Charlie did or said, he always received Grandpa's praise. Over time, Rachel grew resentful. At a family gathering, she deliberately broke an antique vase and tried to blame it on Charlie, hoping to tarnish his reputation. However, a hidden security camera captured everything, leaving Charlie's status intact. Rachel, on the other hand, faced Grandpa's wrath. He accused her of being manipulative and ruthless, just like Mom, and told Dad not to bring her to the house anymore. From then on, Rachel harbored a deep grudge against Grandpa. On Grandpa's birthday, she even posted a vicious curse on social media, depicting various ways to end an old man's life. Grandpa saw it but ignored her. Later, when Dad went bankrupt, Rachel's circumstances worsened, and she finally thought of Grandpa, kneeling at the old house's gate, begging for forgiveness and shelter. Grandpa didn't show up, and the security guards dragged her away. This time, the roles had reversed. Rachel was chasing her dream life, and standing outside the lakeside villa about to visit Grandpa was me. I took a few deep breaths and rang the doorbell. Even if Dad had already called Grandpa to say I wanted to visit, Grandpa still looked at me coldly from his study. I greeted him politely, and he had no intention of acknowledging me. I wasn't upset. I simply found a corner to sit in. Living with Mom over the years had exposed me to far worse humiliations, making this moment insignificant. Inside the study, Grandpa was quizzing Charlie on his lessons. Charlie, 17, was a brilliant student with a keen interest in finance and economics. Grandpa, a self-made wealthy man, genuinely admired his proactive and grounded grandson, often bringing Charlie over to discuss famous business deals. The questions Grandpa posed were challenging. Charlie answered the initial ones, but struggled with a particularly tough question, leaving him deep in thought. Grandpa patiently awaited his response. I timidly raised my hand. "Grandpa, may I share my opinion?" Grandpa looked at me skeptically. "You haven't even graduated middle school. What could you possibly say? If you're restless, go outside. No tricks." I wasn't angry. I smiled and said, "If my answer doesn't satisfy you, I'll go stand outside as punishment. How about that?" Grandpa snorted. "Charlie," I said, "why not let little sis try?" Grandpa remained silent, indicating his approval. I gave Charlie a grateful smile before speaking. These entrepreneurs have illegitimate sources for their initial funds. Early on, they acted as middlemen to help foreign companies enter the domestic market, exploiting information gaps for huge profits. Grandpa looked surprised and continued his questioning. "What do you think is their natural advantage, and what problems do they face?" I paused and replied, "Their advantage is forming close ties with foreign companies early on and adapting quickly to the market. However, their problem is an over-reliance on the foreign company's first-mover advantage, lacking their own competitiveness. When the market becomes more regulated, their competitive edge fades. Grandpa stared at me for a long moment, his expression shifting from doubt and scrutiny to something more thoughtful. After a while, he asked, "You're only 14. Where did you learn these things?" I responded, "There are plenty of books in the city library. I love reading." But the truth was, many of Mom's clients acted as middlemen for foreign enterprises, exploiting loopholes through nepotism and information disparities to amass wealth, all while attributing their success to their own skills and competence. One drunken afternoon, embracing a young girl, Dad couldn't wait to boast about past victories. Thinking of this, I forced my eyes shut. When I opened them, I was still in Grandpa's serious and old-fashioned study, not the dim, pink-lit bedroom from before. It was Charlie who gently started clapping. "Olivia is only 14, but she reads and thinks exceptionally well. That's impressive," Charlie said, looking at me with a warm, sincere expression. "I feel inferior to you?" I quickly shook my head. "It's just luck. I don't understand the financial and economic concepts you discussed. I have a lot to learn." After a brief silence, Charlie asked, "Olivia, do you want to study with me?" With Charlie's suggestion, Grandpa allowed me to sit in on the classes, though he still harbored doubts, suspecting it might be another scheme to swindle money from him. Therefore, he insisted that Charlie regularly report my progress. Honestly, Charlie didn't need to monitor me, nor did anyone need to push me. My daily routine of attending school, practicing piano on weekends, and spending time at the library was the life I had always wanted. How could I not cherish it? Months flew by. In Grandpa's study, I was no longer just an observer. Often, Grandpa's questions would spark heated debates between Charlie and me, so much so that Grandpa had to intervene. Eventually, Grandpa stopped viewing me with suspicion. Charlie also ceased reporting to him about me, complaining that focusing on me had cost him time and even led to him losing a small test to me. Grandpa merely laughed at that. I acted as if I knew nothing and continued working on my exercises. At school, my hard work paid off when I won first prize in a math competition. The teacher announced that they would recognize me at the parent-teacher meeting. But as usual, Dad was unreliable. He promised to attend, but half an hour before the meeting, he called to say he couldn't make it. "Olivia," he said, "I've got an important meeting. I'll have the nanny attend for me. You behave." I could clearly hear laughter from women in the background. I didn't confront him and calmly hung up the phone. Then, I sent the award list from the classroom chalkboard to Grandpa, highlighting that both Charlie and I were leading in the middle and high school sections. I attached a note. "Grandpa, Dad can't make it to the meeting, but the teacher really wants to discuss my future. Can you come?" Grandpa personally showed up at the school, receiving a treatment that Charlie hadn't experienced. My homeroom teacher was anxious, and the principal rushed to greet him. Grandpa calmly took a seat in the principal's chair and asked, "How's my granddaughter's performance? Anything she could improve on?" It was a rhetorical question. The teacher gushed about my excellence as a student. Satisfied, Grandpa nodded. After the meeting, he paused briefly before instructing the driver to head to the mall. "I noticed the girls in your class dress quite vibrantly. Why do you look so plain? Is your dad not treating you well?" he inquired. In the end, he bought me 6 or 7 outfits and several bags. The numbers on the receipt made me nervous. "Grandpa, aren't you worried I'm after your money now?" I asked. He laughed heartily. "I'd be worried if you weren't." Startled, I then laughed along. Rachel had thought she could win Grandpa over with cuteness, flattery, and acting coy, but she didn't understand that Grandpa, a self-made entrepreneur, had seen countless sugar-coated bullets and understood the dark side of human nature. He neither needed nor respected praise and flattery from the incompetent. An aging leader like him wanted to see vibrant successors, and all I had to do was continue proving myself to eventually become another Charlie, Grandpa's pride and joy. Years later, Grandpa had a study specially renovated for Charlie and me. Just as we were playing Go, news broke that Dad had insisted, despite Grandpa's warnings, on investing tens of millions in a shell company, which had now collapsed. From the neighboring study, I could hear Grandpa's furious roars through the wall. "Do you have a tumor on your shoulders instead of a head? How many times did I tell you that company was no good? Why didn't you listen? Forget your explanations. From now on, you're no son of mine. Get out. I'll consider you dead." My heart sank. Just like in my previous life, Grandpa was going to disown Dad. I feared he might take it out on me as well and disown me like he did with Rachel. Bang! The study door flew open. Grandpa stood there, enraged. "Olivia, come out!" Charlie quickly stood up, positioning himself in front of me. "Grandpa, whatever Uncle did, Olivia is innocent." Grandpa replied coldly, "This has nothing to do with you." Charlie wanted to say more, but I tugged on his sleeve. "It's okay, brother. Grandpa must want to talk to me." Inside the solemn and old-fashioned study, the scent of pu'er tea lingered. I respectfully brewed the tea, served it, and placed a cup in front of Grandpa. Then, just like my first day there, I quietly sat in a corner. Grandpa studied me for a long moment, his aged eyes seeming to look right through me. I remained still, allowing him to observe me. After a prolonged silence, Grandpa spoke. "I plan to cut ties with your father. What do you think?" I responded, "Dad made a big mistake by not listening. He should realize that." Grandpa asked, "You're not going to convince me otherwise?" I almost sighed. Why even bother trying to persuade? Last week, when we talked about the rise and fall of family-run businesses in America, I mentioned that if family members aren't talented enough, the company should be handed over to a professional manager. You know better than me about Dad's abilities. If I tried to convince you to keep him around, I'd be betraying my conscience. Grandpa squinted his eyes and said, "If I kick him out, you'll have a tough time. Are you okay with that?" I chuckled helplessly. "The money's yours. You can give it to whoever you want. I have no say in it. As for me, whether it's tutoring or interning, I'll find a way to cover my tuition. Don't worry about me having a dad like that. It's just my fate, and I don't blame it." After a long silence, the teapot began to boil again. I reached out to pour some water, but Grandpa poured a cup of tea for me himself. He looked into my eyes and said, "Having a dad like him is your fate. But in your life, there's more than just your dad. There's me." Grandpa kicked my father out of the house, but moved my belongings into his home. From then on, I had my own room in the lakeside villa. I no longer had to deal with the various women Dad brought home because I became Grandpa's granddaughter, his protected granddaughter. One day after school, I encountered an unexpected visitor, Rachel. She was dressed seductively, adorned in all luxury brands. Her makeup was flawless, with long, fluttering false eyelashes that seemed to create a breeze. Rachel looked me up and down, wrinkling her nose exaggeratedly. "I heard Dad went bankrupt. I just had to come and check on you." "Come on, sis. Even if the family's out of money, you shouldn't be dressing so shabby, right?" I glanced down at myself. My sneakers had split during basketball practice that day, and I hadn't had a chance to change them. My clothes were plain sportswear, slightly worn, but I liked them because they were comfortable and loose. As for accessories, I wasn't like some girls in class who loved bracelets and necklaces. Bracelets slowed down my writing, and necklaces got in the way when I exercised, so the pile of jewelry Grandpa gave me remained untouched in the closet. Seeing my silence, Rachel assumed I agreed with her. She leaned back, smiling smugly. "You're so pitiful, sis. Not like me. I already have 2 Hermes bags and a bunch of pretty dresses. I live like a princess every day." I didn't want to discuss it, so I asked, "I haven't seen you at school since last year. Did you transfer?" She replied, "School's pointless now. I learn dance every day, and Mom helps me with makeup and skincare. She says girls don't need to know much. Beauty is the real deal." She leaned in, pointing at her eyes with pride. "See my double eyelids? Mom took me to get them done. Way better than your single eyelids, right? Look at my hands. I get full body treatments every week. Mom says they're as delicate as boneless jade. Yours, though, are full of calluses." I opened my hand to show the calluses from writing and hitting the gym. Soft hands can't throw a punch. I wanted hands strong enough to take on life's challenges. Breaking my silence, Rachel looked even more pleased. She said, "Jealous, huh? But don't think you can go back to Mom. She likes well-behaved daughters, not you." I laughed to myself. Yeah, Mom likes well-behaved daughters. Back then, I had refused to bow down, and she had beaten me badly for it. Rachel thought the makeup, short skirts, and designer bags from Mom were expressions of love. Little did she know they were tickets to a living nightmare. Those pretty dresses would get torn apart. Those beautiful faces would be ruinously exploited. Amid the luxury and elegance, old men enjoyed hearing young girls beg for mercy. There's no such thing as a free lunch. My dear sister, You don't realize that the price of getting something for nothing is much higher than money. After graduating high school, I was accepted into a top business school in the US, rejoining Charlie as a classmate. Grandpa was thrilled, throwing me a going-away party. Charlie even flew internationally to celebrate with me. During the toasts, a middle-aged man in a suit tried to flatter me, claiming I was truly a granddaughter of Charles. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, of course, the saying wasn't entirely accurate, but everyone tactfully ignored the fact that Grandpa's apple was actually a useless and incompetent fool who was, at that moment, miserably working to pay off his debts. I nodded with a smile, raising my glass to this man. The moment I saw him, a chill ran through me. He had a mole above his right eyebrow, a scar on his ear, and underneath his suit, an unsightly birthmark on his chest. How did I know this? Because he'd been a regular at Mom's place. In the pink bathroom of the luxury villa, Patrick's favorite pastime was grabbing my hair and holding me underwater in the bathtub again and again. He said my suffocation brought him immense pleasure. My mom took money and still needed me for business. Even if I killed you, Mom wouldn't care, so it was better if you didn't resist. Better if you went along quietly, otherwise my whip would tear you apart. That face, I could never forget. Observing my reaction, Charlie gracefully took my glass, discreetly stepping in for me. Since my sister struggles with her alcohol, I offered to take her place. The crowd erupted in applause, lauding Charles's blessings and the unity within the Andreas family. Noticing my unease, Grandpa kindly suggested I relax in the lounge. There, I sipped cold water, attempting to regain my composure. Considering the time, it was likely that Mom had revealed her true nature by now, but what would Rachel confront? I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. "Hey sis, how have you been?" On the other end of the video call, Rachel gave me a dismissive look. "So, what's been going on with you lately?" Rachel continued, her tone indifferent. "After all you've been through with Dad, you think of me? Weren't you stubborn before? If you want to reconnect, you'd better beg on your knees." I shook my head. "No, I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing." Rachel laughed derisively. "Oh, dear sister, trying to be nice now. You probably hope I'm struggling, don't you? Too bad I'm thriving. I'm in a relationship with a rich and powerful boyfriend who treats me like royalty. I'm now a key player at Mom's company, leading a team of over 10 people. Take care of yourself, or you might end up delivering food with Dad." With that, Rachel ended the call. I stared at my phone, lost in thought. After the divorce in my previous life, Mom retained some assets, but was so accustomed to luxury that she couldn't handle a modest lifestyle. Eventually, she reverted to her old habits, seeking another wealthy man, but she was no longer in her prime. Despite her efforts to maintain her image, she couldn't compete with the beauty of younger women. After numerous unsuccessful attempts, she realized that while these men were no longer interested in her, they seemed keen on her daughter. That's when my nightmare began. Is Rachel genuinely happy, or is it just a fleeting illusion? 6 months later, before I had a breakdown, I returned home. It was nearly Grandpa's birthday. I took Charlie to purchase a gift for Grandpa and encountered Rachel at an auction. She was dressed in a form-fitting cami dress with vibrant makeup, appearing entirely out of place. However, when she saw me, her demeanor changed. "Olivia, what are you doing here? Can you even afford a place like this?" she asked, then glanced at Charlie. Charlie was wearing a sleek silver gray shirt and a black suit, exuding confidence and style. Rachel stared at him as if she had seen a ghost. "Is that Charlie?" she inquired. Charlie nodded. "Yes, it is." "And who are you?" she demanded. Charlie didn't recognize Rachel. She used to resemble me, but now she had undergone eyelid surgery, a nose job, and breast enhancements. Her heavy makeup and flashy attire made her unrecognizable, so it was understandable that Charlie didn't immediately identify her. However, upon hearing Charlie's question, Rachel lost her composure. "Oh, fantastic. You remember her, but not me. How did you two even get together? Dad's been bankrupt for ages, so how are you suddenly so close to Charlie? Did she help you solve some mystery?" Rachel suddenly gasped accusingly. "You're using Charlie, aren't you, to escape your troubles? Is that it, you shameless person?" Without further explanation, Charlie pieced it together. His expression darkened as he reprimanded her. "That's absurd!" Rachel's eyes flared, her voice rising in frustration. "You're defending her? Did you know her family is struggling now? Her dad is working any job he can, and she's suffering too. And still, you stand up for her?" Charlie, remaining calm, said, "I think you're mistaken. Her dad may have his struggles, but Olivia isn't the same. She's studying business now, and Grandpa sees potential in her." Rachel blinked in disbelief. "What did you say?" she demanded. "That's impossible. Olivia should be struggling just like the rest of them, not attending college." Tired of the confrontation, I grabbed Charlie, signaling we should leave, but Rachel blocked our way. "How could Grandpa choose you over me? Why does he see you as worthy and not me?" She glared at me, searching for a reason. "Is he playing favorites again? This isn't fair." I had enough. I stepped forward and slapped Rachel, my voice steady. "Say what you want about me, but don't drag Grandpa into this. That was for him." Rachel attempted to retaliate, but a middle-aged man intervened. He had a mole above his right eyebrow and a scar on his ear. It was Patrick, the very man my mom had tried to impress in my previous life. He held Rachel tightly, repeatedly apologizing to Charlie and me. "Sorry, she has some mental issues. It's my fault, truly, I didn't mean to offend the Charles." So Rachel's so-called affluent and influential boyfriend was Patrick all along. "That's just sad. She believes that clinging to power means every girl must sell herself to get a piece of it." I shook my head and addressed him. "Keep your woman in line, Mr. Smith." Patrick nodded several times, but Rachel continued to struggle in his arms. "He's my grandpa, too. Get it straight. He's my grandpa." Patrick slapped her again, commanding, "Shut up. Charles only has 2 kids. Don't claim relationships when you're just a manipulator." With a guilty glance toward Charlie and me, he dragged Rachel away. That day at the auction, I managed to purchase one of Grandpa's favorite landscape paintings, though my mood remained somber. Don't misunderstand me. Rachel got exactly what she deserved. I'm not upset for her. I was merely contemplating how many more young girls might be trapped in Mom's villa, and how many clients like Patrick there could be. Perhaps it was time to take action. During Grandpa's birthday celebration, the venue was packed. Charlie and I presented him with the landscape painting, and Grandpa was overjoyed. He proudly introduced us to all his close friends. Among the stream of titles and names, only one stood out like a lightning strike. Mike. I remembered that name from my past life. He frequently appeared in Patrick's angry tirades. Mike, with a military background, was principled and had no tolerance for nonsense. He had been Patrick's boss, but when Patrick was caught taking bribes, Mike fired him. Patrick left the company and started his own business, taking many clients from his former employer. As a result, they became enemies. Now it appeared they were both competing for the same government contract, a crucial project at that time. Reflecting on this, I raised my glass to toast Mike. "So you're the chairman of B-Star, huh? I just heard about your company a few days ago?" Mike chuckled. "Oh, where from?" I smiled, speaking slowly. "I ran into Uncle Patrick at an auction the other day." Hearing Patrick's name, Mike's expression darkened slightly. I pretended not to notice, and continued. "It's funny. This is the 3rd time I've bumped into Uncle Patrick this month. The first 2 times, he seemed to be having drinks with Julia. Julia is my mom. Since divorcing my dad, she had some cosmetic procedures and changed her name. No one in town knows her history anymore. She's a completely new person. Over the years, she built a business from scratch through online streaming, expanding it into a substantial venture. She's now a well-known female entrepreneur. Outsiders view her as a self-made success story, but insiders are aware that her so-called company is merely a facade for illicit activities. When the names Julia and Patrick were mentioned, Mike seemed to understand immediately. "You said Julia?" he asked. I replied innocently, "Yeah, that lady's really pretty, and so are the girls around her. But the uncle sitting with them looked familiar, like I've seen him on TV." Mike's eyes lit up. He quickly refilled his glass, clinked it with mine, and drank it in one go. "Olivia, your grandpa was right. You really are a lucky star." I didn't understand phrases like using a borrowed knife to kill or hitting a bull with a whip that hasn't struck it yet. I just knew that one day, while scrolling through my phone, I discovered that Mom's company had shut down and she was in custody. The PR managers living in her villa were also taken to the detention center. Law enforcement shared some information with reporters, mentioning they received reports about corruption and scandalous deals. They took it seriously, launched an investigation, and gathered solid evidence. Later, once the court ruled, those involved were incarcerated. In the news report, the detainees' faces were blurred, but I could still recognize the man with the unsightly birthmark. It was Patrick, and the woman fleeing in his arms was Rachel. Switching to financial news, the headlines celebrated Bastard's rising stock price, which increased due to securing a major government contract, boosting investor confidence. After folding the newspaper, my housekeeper brought me a gift. It was a birthday present from Uncle Mike for my 21st birthday, a translucent jade pendant. He didn't say anything or leave a note, but I understood why the gift was so valuable. I closed the box and placed it in my closet. Like my other dazzling jewelry, it was beautiful, but it wasn't what I was striving for anymore. Every bit of beauty comes at a cost. Until I offer my own work, talent, and effort in return, I don't deserve to wear them. Months later, the scandalous case that shook the nation reached its verdict. The masterminds, Julia and Rachel, faced severe penalties for exploiting young girls. One random afternoon, I received a call from the detention center. They said my sister wanted to see me. Outside the center, I encountered my dad. I initially thought he came to visit my sister too, but he was actually delivering food nearby. Spotting me, he approached shamelessly. "Olivia, can you put in a good word for me with Grandpa? Blood is thicker than water. Can you stand by and watch your dad struggle?" Charlie moved to intervene, but I stopped him. Calmly, I looked at the man in front of me, worn by his own choices, and said, "You brought this upon yourself. Grandpa gave you every opportunity, supporting you through it all, but you squandered it on poor decisions. I remember, as a child coming home from school one day, your door was wide open, and I saw things no kid should see. People acting recklessly, completely ignoring that I was just a child. And you just sat there and laughed. I was only 7. If the housekeeper hadn't stepped in that day, I don't even want to think about what could have happened." Now, looking at my pitiful dad, I couldn't find a trace of his former charm. Maybe this is destiny's way of being fair. If you think you're invincible, destiny places you right where you belong. I turned and walked away from my dad's pleas, moving forward and leaving behind childhood nightmares. Inside the prison visiting room, behind the glass, Rachel stood in an orange vest and cuffs. Seeing me, she became overly excited, almost stumbling as she tried to rush forward. I looked down at her. "Calm down, sister," Rachel pleaded. "I heard you graduated from business school." I nodded. "And you've joined Grandpa's company as a manager," she continued. I corrected her. "Just an intern, my staying depends on my skills." She went on, "I heard Grandpa bought you an apartment downtown because he didn't want you commuting too far." I shrugged. "I'm paying him rent for it." But it seemed like she didn't hear, remaining lost in her own world. 7? Why? Why was this supposed to be my life if I had chosen Dad? All this would have been mine. Top schools, a mansion, the heir to the company, Olivia. You ruined everything for me. I looked at her with pity. "Didn't you choose Dad?" Rachel snapped out of her frenzy and, after a moment, pointed shakily at me. "Did you also come back?" I didn't respond, just said, "Both times." "I wanted to save you. In my past life, Dad went bankrupt. Rachel came to me asking me to take her to Mom's big house. I refused because I didn't want her to suffer like me. But she came to me, asking me to take her to Mom's big house. I refused because I didn't want her to suffer like me. But she hated me and poisoned me, ending my life. This time around, I met Patrick and realized Mom might be up to the same tricks. So I called Rachel, but she didn't see it as shameful. She was actually proud and helped Mom suppress other girls. A news report exposed it, saying Julia was awful, selling her daughters for profit. But Rachel was worse, aiding in the evil, devising tortures that were even more cruel than Julia's. Looking at the person crying behind the glass, I felt no sympathy. "Rachel, no matter what you choose, your ending won't be good because your intentions have always been wrong. You see people as tools to gain wealth and comfort, chasing a lazy dream your whole life. Even when tormented by old men, you thought it was more honorable than working. Grandpa never misjudged you. Like Dad, you're indulgent. Like Mom, you'll stop at nothing. Selfish and ruthless." Rachel laughed and cried, almost losing control. No, I need another chance. I need to start over. She lunged at me with a twisted expression, but she forgot there was a thick layer of glass between us. She slammed into the glass with a loud thud, and then the guards dragged her away. Her sharp cries echoed down the hall. "Olivia, you won't die a good death." I just smiled. Not die a good death. I just smiled. Not die a good death. Who really won't die well? When I heard Julia had died, I had already rotated through different departments in the company. I learned that Julia happened to be in the same cell as the mother of a victim girl. That woman was a scam artist, tricking everyone to fund her daughter's medical treatment. But once jailed, her daughter was lured, tricked, imprisoned, and tormented by Julia. One night, that mother found a way to end Julia's life. They said Julia died horribly. On the phone, a staffer asked if I wanted to claim her ashes. I said, "No need, discard them, whatever, it doesn't matter." Really, I hung up the phone and continued working on my plan. During my rotations, I sometimes complained to Grandpa about the excessive overtime, saying it was exhausting young people. Grandpa took it seriously, demanded efficiency, and ended the unnecessary overtime. He even fired the HR personnel and department heads who had fostered the overtime culture in the company. By then, Charlie had become the backbone of the company's divisions. He was always sharp, and with Grandpa's influence from a young age, he knew the market inside out. Sometimes he faced issues being too far from the front lines, with information not flowing smoothly. So he'd come to me for help. I'm not a genius, I just hid my true identity when I was hired. This allowed me to mingle with the front lines, hear gossip, enjoy others' stories, and inform Charlie about the people whom employees disliked but bosses favored. Then, Charlie would swoop in and be the hero in everyone's eyes. On Friday, Charlie picked me up to go to Grandpa's for dinner. In the car, cheerful music played. Outside, a bright moon hung over the river. Out of nowhere, Charlie said, "When I was a kid, I thought you were no different from your mom." I teased, "Are you all right, insulting me like that?" Charlie laughed too, a soft smile on his lips. "Yeah." Then I realized something was off. "You're more like Grandma." Grandma, who stood by Grandpa, helped start the company from scratch, holding up half the sky as a co-founder. I accepted the compliment guiltily, then said, "Actually, I've always wanted to thank you. I often say it's my hard work, diligence, and intelligence that caught Grandpa's eye and gave me opportunities, but it's not entirely true. On the path where I raced to shake off past nightmares, at the start, it was Charlie who lent me a hand. He suggested to Grandpa that I join him for lessons, so Grandpa's rustic study had a place for me. After my sincere thanks, Charlie smiled. A red light stopped us. He braked and tapped my forehead. "You, Missy, we're family. No need to thank me. Plus, you might have forgotten when Rachel pushed me into the lake, you jumped in to save me." I was taken aback. That happened. Charlie glanced at me and earnestly added, "Though back then you barely reached my waist and didn't really save me. In fact, you made it worse. You still meant well." I laughed out loud. The night breeze was gentle, the moon shone brightly, and Schubert's piano melodies softly graced my fingertips. I heard Charlie's slow voice. "So, Olivia, everything in this world is reaping what you sow. Instead of thanking me, thank yourself, because you're a good person. Even if you hadn't met me, Charlie, you'd meet someone else." I looked down, smiling softly and oddly. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Once upon a time, I lived in a home full of manipulation and distance. Mom only cared about money, and Dad was obsessed with women. My sister was a sweet-looking girl who always played dirty tricks on me. Later, my mom took me away, and I thought I'd start a brand new life. But she used a cruel method that nearly destroyed me. During those years of being trapped, every day a different man barged into my room. I didn't even dare to sleep because I was terrified of waking up to the face of another stranger. What I couldn't comprehend was that my mom was the one who handed me over like a gift. She was supposed to be the one who loved me the most. "Mom, why did you do this?" "Mom, I'm your daughter." Countless questions tangled up, becoming the knife on my wrist, the sleeping pills I'd swallow, the despair of not even being able to die. But luckily, everything changed. Now I have a serious yet loving grandpa around and an impressive, honorable brother. They care for me, watch over me, and support me as I grow freely. My bedroom is cozy and cute, surrounded by kittens, puppies, and financial times. All that darkness, pain, and terrifying breathing is far away from me now. I wiped away my tears, turned to look outside the car window, and gazed at the big, bright moon. Charlie noticed, but kindly didn't probe deeper, casually changing the topic. Grandpa had secretly asked me what birthday gift to get you. I thought for a moment and said, "Don't buy anything, I just want his fried rice." Charlie laughed exaggeratedly. "No way, Missy, you're that easy to please." I laughed. "Yep, isn't his homemade meal enough? Someone's willing to make me happy. Someone's willing to cook for me, and I can stand in the sunlight, living clean and fearless. That is the best gift life has given."